Anyway, we'll let Jacob ask questions. I'm sorry, Jacob. I just hadn't seen
I
Jim
can
in a
connect you
long
guys
time.
over email after. But so on the note of governments, I wanted to talk about Bitcoin and precious metals, because both of you have kind of speculated that the US dollar is not the best asset to hold for the near future, or have said something along the lines of that. I know that, Jim, the last time I watched you speak about it, someone mentioned that you think that eventually it'll get big enough and then the government will outlaw it. Do you think that's still true? And Anthony, could you give a pitch for Bitcoin?
Well, let's, if you don't mind, let's hear Jim's views on it, and then I can respond. I mean, so Jim, you think it's going to be outlawed?
Well, first, what Anthony said before was, yes, if you watch what the government does, you will probably become a successful investor. Because if they start spending a lot of money on something, even if they're wrong, somebody's going to make a lot of money, because the government throws staggering amounts of money into what they think should be done. Now, as far as when you say they're going to work, I mean, I own silver. I got some silver right here. I got some gold right here, and I'm not buying at the moment, but I will buy more. I have never owned any cryptocurrencies. Many of them have already disappeared, as you know, and gone to zero. Now, I wish I bought the right one or the right five, but there've been hundreds which have already disappeared. Listen, it's a great trading vehicle for those who are good traders, which I am not. I'm the worst trader in the world. But my view about what many of the bulls say is it's going to replace money. Well, money is definitely going to be on the computer. It already is in China. You can't take a taxi in China with money. You cannot buy ice cream in China with money. You only can use computer money already. So it's happening. It's going, even, I mean, everybody, the US government is investigating how to put all the money on the computer. And it's going to be there. But when the money is on the computer, I cannot imagine the US government is going to say, okay, guys, this is money. But if you want to use Bitcoin, go ahead. Go ahead and compete with us. I mean, come on, that's not the way these guys think. They're very power hungry. They want to control everything, and they want a monopoly. They do not want to let other people compete with money. It doesn't mean it cannot be a trading vehicle till the end of time, but it's not going to be money, in my view.
Jim, I mean, I got to respond to that. I think Jim could be right about that. My thesis on Bitcoin has always been related to value storage once it is completely adopted. And so as right now, it is a reasonably good quality, liquid, volatile trading facility. But if I am right about Metcalfe's law, and again, I might not be, so I've got my clients appropriately sized. They own anywhere from 1% to 3% exposure to Bitcoin, depending on who they are and what their risk tolerance is. So this is not, I'm not a Bitcoin evangelist, Jim. I am a Bitcoin investor. I think there's a very big distinction there. I see the positives in Bitcoin, and I see the volatility, and I see the uncertainty, but I just want to make one point about what I have gotten wrong in my career, because I am a disciple of people like Jim Rogers and Warren Buffett. I have bought value. I have, bought some emerging markets like into China and places like Singapore, and I've held the assets, and I'm making that very patient compounding game. However, what I've missed in my career is the adoption cycles associated with Metcalfe's law. So let me give one vivid, quick example. Metcalfe's law, scaling a retail network known as Amazon. If you bought Amazon in 1997, May 15th, on its IPO, you put $10,000 into Amazon. It is now worth $21 million. Now, Jim will appreciate this. I used to attend the Allen and Company conference, the media conference in Sun Valley, and I watched Jeff Bezos make one presentation after the next about how he was scaling this business, and he was going to be not focused on earnings. Warren Buffett said shortly after him, sat up there, he said, well, that doesn't work for me. I need hardcore earnings. I need cash earnings. I need retained earnings. Otherwise, I can't value the thing appropriately. And I think we're in a different world now. I could be wrong. When people say this time is different, it usually is not different. but we have to accept the fact that we've had technological changes in the world that have caused massive scaling of networks. This phone, this Apple phone, is networked. We have iBooks on it, we have iTunes on it, and iEverything on it. Amazon has got 46% of the market share of the retail space. Facebook is a social network. What they created with Bitcoin, like it or not, is a decentralized monetary and or transfer network. And what's unique about it, and Jim is correct, they do believe that some of these governments will outlaw it, but what is unique about it is that 106 million people have already adopted it. We believe 1 billion people will adopt it by 2025. If I'm right about that, and Metcalf is right about the valuation metrics associated with fundamentally analyzing something that's scaling pursuant to Metcalf's law, I think it's a cheap asset. And so therefore, it has features, Jim, if you study it, and I can recommend a book to you if you have an interest. It has features of fungibility. It has features of impregnability because of the blockchain. And if you go back through history and study money, these are the things that human beings over the course of 5,000 years of recorded history have used to transfer value between each other. One last point. The thing that we transfer between each other is always worth less than the goods and services that we're transferring, whether it's wampum, a seashell, a pearl, a piece of paper with Benjamin Franklin's insignia or portrait on it. It's always worth less than what we trade, but it's the trust in that network. And so to me, you got 106 million people that believe in the blockchain, and the blockchain has not been cracked for Bitcoin in 12 years, result of which we put some money in it. Jim, I think you'd appreciate this as a long-term investor. We started buying those coins at 15, 16,000. And, I think they have a long way to go.
How far do you see it going?
So if we're right, pursuant to Metcalf's law, we have 100 million people in it now. It can get to 1 billion. I think these coins could be worth several $100,000 a piece. And by the way, they could still never be money. They could still cohabitate in your SIM card with a digital yuan, a digital dollar. And in a weird way, if I'm right about where the Fed is moving, and I listen, I did, albeit it was unsuccessful for me, I did work in the government for a period of time. I'm very close to Steve Mnuchin, and I understand where the Treasury wants to be as it relates to a digital dollar. And weirdly, Bitcoin could be a potential early adoption mechanism for them. And I think when you see companies like Netflix and Apple Computer start to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet, you'll recognize that the government may treat Bitcoin like they do an asset like gold at some point. And remember, here's the last point. Okay, Jim and I, there's an expression called FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Well, you gotta be very, very careful that Jim and I don't become fuddy-duddies. Okay, we don't want to be old dinosaurs where we fail to recognize that there's new technologies out there that we have to embrace. I'm closing in on 60, and I've made a reasonable amount of money with a discipline related to Jim Rogers, Warren Buffett, and George Soros. You know, you used to be able to celebrate and talk about George Soros, Jim, but now he's become a political pariah. So we have to be careful using his name in certain venues. But those are the people that are my intellectual mentors in investing. Having said that, right now, probably the best capital allocator ever in the world is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Bezos. You can like him or dislike him, but you have to look at what he did with his business, the long-term philosophy, the way he allocated that capital. You have this huge opportunity right now to be in Bitcoin, which is scaling the way Google, Facebook, and Microsoft did, and the way Amazon did, pursuant to Metcalf's law. And it's doing it in a decentralized way. So there's no C-suite politics. There's no intrigue at the personal level of who's divorcing or having affairs with each other. It's decentralizing. And there's 100,000+ nodes, of which Skybridge is operating a full node. And I would recommend to Jim to meet my friend CZ at Binance, which is the largest cryptocurrency trading facility. It's located in Singapore. or Bitfinance. Those two guys are close personal friends of mine. They're both based in Singapore. And it would be worth it, I think, to have lunch with them just to stay neurally plastic, keep the mind open about the potentiality that this could exist, not as a currency, but as it scales as something that's a fairly stable, and again, I'm going to say fairly stable store of value. Remember, Amazon, to go from the 10,000 to the 21 million, you had to subject yourself to 7 episodic events where the stock dropped more than 50% in that travail. And I think that's happening with Bitcoin right now. And by the way, if I'm wrong, I have it sized appropriately in my portfolio so that it's 1 to 3% of my assets, depending on people's risk profile. So no one's going to miss a meal if I've got this thing completely wrong and somebody like Peter Schiff or Nouriel Roubini are correct.
Well, I would have to say, I don't see how it's 1 to 3%. It's gone up so much. It must be 3 to 5%.
Yes,
by now.
no, that's correct. I'm talking about a cost. I'm talking about cost. When I initiated these in the portfolio, and some of my clients, I've trimmed it pursuant to their request, and some of my clients are comfortable with letting it run. And I think I remember reading in one of your books that if you're onto something and you feel very strongly about it, you have high conviction and you have good fundamentals, and it is running, you don't cut it just for the sake of cutting it. You want to reevaluate it as the price is moving.
Exactly right. But now, one of the most interesting things you said is about blockchain. Blockchain is going to change. It is going to change. It is changing now. Everything we know about the world. It's going to put a lot of people out of business, but electricity put a lot of people out of business. So blockchain is fabulous, exciting. How do I play blockchain? That technology. I would love to find a way, and I have not found a way, partly because I'm lazy, and partly because, yes, Samsung is in blockchain, but so what? I mean, I need to find a company where it's small enough that will make a difference.
So I'm going to push back on Jim politely, and I'm going to try to appeal to his intellectual bandwidth, because he's got one of the largest intellectual bandwidths in investing. You play the blockchain by owning the Bitcoin. We don't have to overcomplicate it. And what sometimes we do, because we see something that's run up a lot, we say, okay, wait, I better be careful with that. And one of the things we don't want to do is embarrass ourselves, because if something looks like it's too good to be true in our industry, we say, okay, then it must not be true. However, let me give you a couple of things that are too good to be true. Landing people on the moon, too good to be true. This phone, more computing power in it than all the computers that we use to land people on the moon. This phone is a miniaturization device, a Pac-Man. Every one of these books in this room have been eaten by this phone and can be stored in this phone. That is too good to be true. Amazon is too good to be true. A store that you can buy everything and it delivers it right to your house in a few hours. So we do have things in our societies that are too good to be true. Where I find the too good to be true aphorism to work is in the investment community when we're dealing with investment professionals that are lying about their performance. But let's take a look at some of these great companies, their performance, Amazon going from 10,000 to 21 million. Yes, that's too good to be true, but it is true. And so therefore we have to look at these things intellectually, and we have to potentially embrace them. And again, I'm just telling people, you're going to be short Bitcoin by not being long it. And let me just explain that. Eventually, it'll be part of the index. Eventually, right now, Jim and I are looking at an index. It's got stocks and bonds in it. It's got gold, commodities, Jim's commodity index. It's got all of these features. And at some point, a small slice of that pizza is going towards Bitcoin. I would like to get my clients in there now before that ETF is registered and approved in the United States. We have one approved already, two actually in Canada. And I think these regulators have made a decision. We might as well regulate this SOB, this beast, as opposed to fight it. Now, will it be a currency? Jim is likely correct about that they will, because of their monopoly powers, their central banking coordination, it'll probably avoid being a currency. But can it sit on your phone alongside of your currencies, and can you toggle in and out of it? I believe that will happen. And if I'm wrong, trust me, Jim, I've got a whole phone book of wrongs and mistakes I've had in my career. So I'll add this one to the top of the list, but I don't think so. And I think that sizing it appropriately and being cautious will serve you well in a vehicle like this.
Well, Jacob, I have certainly made many mistakes in my life. I assure you, we could do weeks of shows about my mistakes. But back to my other question: is there a blockchain company?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. The blockchain is basically, to me, I think the best way to play the blockchain is through Bitcoin. And I understand Jim's point. Eventually, everything will be digitized. You could theoretically have a digitized shares of Walmart on your phone, a digitized shares of a Swiss franc, a digitized shares of Amazon on your phone. And all of those things will be digitized through the blockchain. But I don't know any company that I'm aware of that you can play the quote unquote blockchain. Another reason why I like Bitcoin.
Okay, well, I'm looking for a blockchain. If you ever come across, Jacob, if you ever know a blockchain, you buy all you can, but then send me an email, okay?
Yeah, I'll definitely let you guys know. I know, Anthony, you have to head out now, so I'll just say goodbye, guys, and hopefully you come back on the show sometime soon.
Yeah, listen, it'd be a
Anthony,
great
if you
pleasure.
come-